Alrighty, guys, not only do we have Andor Season 2 to look forward to, not only have we just wrapped up Daredevil Born Again Season 1, but we are in the thick of things. We have just begun The Last of Us Season 2. This is going to be a full spoiler discussion for episode number 1 of Season 2 of The Last of Us. If you have not seen Season 2, Episode 1 of The Last of Us, no worries. Just make sure to save this segment, save this podcast for later, and we will always be here whenever you are ready, so no worries about that. Just come back once you have seen the episodes, and if you don't care about spoilers, then welcome. And if you've seen the episode, let's get into it. So The Last of Us, for some quick context, I have not played the video games, first of all. I should clarify that. And I have no interest in, not necessarily playing the video games, but just knowing the story at this point, because, sure, I mean, I'm generally not a big video game person. I grew up more playing Nintendo games than PC games, to be quite honest with you. But at this point, because I loved the first season so much, I just am not interested in playing the games because I just want to know what happens to the story as it unfolds on TV. So I am honestly in a position now where I don't think I will be playing the games because, and I'm trying to avoid as much of the future story as I possibly can because I am just excited to see how it unfolds. And I know there are adaptations that they're going to be making with this show. Of course there are, but I'm also just really curious to see after the fact, because that was one of the best parts of the season that came before season 1, where it was that you could, you watch season 1, and as somebody who hadn't played the games, I was able to dive in afterwards and see, oh, this is what people really liked who had, did play the games. This is what people, thought about the adaptations from the game, and mostly it seemed very positive. It seemed like people really liked it, and so I'm very excited about season 2, and I really liked season 1. Again, it had all the signature drama that you expect. It had a lot of tension, obviously, from the infected, and just the stakes, right? Of it's a zombie apocalypse. Sure, you've seen that before, but it was shot so well. It was told so well. I was so on board, and Joel and Ellie obviously were carrying that first season for me. So I was very excited for season 2. And now diving into season 2, I mean, we've done some quick trailer thoughts of the first couple of trailers, but obviously Abby was a character that was going to be introduced, and I don't know a whole lot about her. I found out more about her in this episode alone than I had known before, and so I was very interested to see where we're going to go from here. Not to mention the ending of season 1, obviously, with Joel not really telling Ellie what had happened in that facility, and obviously all secrets in good TV shows are not going to be kept, so obviously Ellie will find out, or she has found out, because she's really mad at Joel for some reason, and I'm not entirely sure why, so I'm supposing that we're going to find that out as well in future episodes. But anyways, let's dive into episode number 1. And based on the recap of season 1 alone, I mean, I usually don't talk about the recaps for these episodes because they always play a little bit of a recap, and I usually skip them. But just because I hadn't seen season 1 since around the time it came out, I wanted to watch the recap and just to refresh my memory on some of the scenes. And based on the recap of season 1 alone, I don't know if I'm ready for season 2. I mean, just brought back all the emotions, all the feels, all the memories of watching that season, and that it's exciting. It was really exciting. So we start at episode 1, and we're introduced very quickly to Abby, and there, immediately one of the themes that we talked about in those early reactions, early reviews, was the idea of consequences, right? That actions have consequences, and Abby and the Fireflies that are remaining are a direct consequence of what Joel did to protect Ellie. What he thought he was doing to protect Ellie was by killing the whole facility, basically, but a few people survive, and Abby is one of them, and she is on she's on a mission to really, I was going to say death mission. I don't know if that's the right terminology, if that even makes sense, but she's on a mission to go and find Joel and kill him. Then we have a time jump 5 years later, which is interesting. I don't know if that actually happens in the game. It's become a very popular thing in movies these days, and I don't know if they're just taking that from the game or if they're introducing that on their own, but 5 years later is a very interesting time jump as well. We have a very intense fight scene with Ellie to start off with. She's, her usual tough, resilient self, and we're hanging out in Wyoming, but it turns out it was just a little bit of a sparring match. So we cut back to Joel now, where we cut to Joel for the first time. He's talking to a girl named Dina, and it looks like she's Ellie's best friend. And right away, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because Joel in season 1 was pretty assertive, and he had his own stubborn way about him. But this season, starting out with Joel being very melancholic, he's very sad, and there are a lot of opportunities for Joel to kind of lash out throughout the rest of the episode. But he just kind of remains this very sad version of the character, which I think, I don't know, he's in therapy as well. So we're setting the stage in that regard. But I'm very curious to see where the character of Joel goes from here. And then We have Ellie, who is doing target practice on the infected, it just doesn't seem like a great idea to me, but I don't know, she seems very self-confident, but she's reckless. I mean, she's trying to go on patrol. Everyone's warning her it's not a great idea, and it's just not great. I think that all these things come back to bite her. She gets bitten later, and we know that she's immune from the original infected, but I'm very curious to see if this bite has anything negative going on later on in the show, in the season, but we'll just have to see about that. Joel, we cut back to Joel, and we're talking, Joel's talking with Tommy, I believe, and he's talking about the fact that there's this dilemma of how many, how do you decide how many people to let in, right? Because at a certain point, the people within the boundaries are going to be, they're going to lack resources if you keep letting people in, but you can't just leave people out there to starve and to be infected. So it's a really interesting conundrum, and I love that this show is not afraid to dive deep into those conundrums. I think I forget the character's name, but she says something to Joel, and she's like, you were a refugee once too. And it's important. I think it's important for these characters to remember where they came from, and it makes these quotes, it makes these moments hit really, really hard. So I think that again, it goes to show that there's humanity behind these characters. These are not easy problems. They're not, quick solutions. These are problems that are going to haunt these characters as we go on through this season. We then get to meet Gail, who is played by Catherine O'Hara. She is a therapist, and it is her first birthday without her husband in 41 years. Apparently Joel did something to kill her. So again, consequences, right? Consequences. And Pedro Pascal and Catherine O'Hara, their face acting alone in that therapy scene is just amazing. I mean, the performances that we get from the actors in these scenes is just phenomenal. I'm just so impressed, so incredibly impressed. So then we spend most of the rest of the episode with Ellie, and she is just being so reckless. She and Dina are going to this infected site, and they run off as, I don't know, as one does, I suppose, and it's not a great idea, because then, of course, there's this, they fight an infected, and Ellie takes the infected down, so that seems pretty easy. The infected, by the way, I have to say, they could look so goofy, but the way that they're shot, the sound design as well, from the noises that they make, are so well done. I'm sure that they're based very closely off of the games, but still, I mean, it's one thing to have it in the games, it's another thing to translate it so successfully, and I'm just so impressed with how they're able to do it. But anyways, yeah, she's flying through floorboards, and then she sees an infected crawling thing, right? And at first I was like, is that a human? What is that? And it's an infected, but it's different, right? It's very different. She gets bit, which is also concerning, and we'll see if that has any ramifications in the future episodes, or if she's still immune to that. But it's interesting because this council, they're deciding, is it something of interest that this infected is so smart, or is this just something that we're gonna have to monitor? Obviously, it's going to be something that comes up throughout the rest of the series, because, I mean, if infected are getting smarter, that's a very bad sign for these people. Also, the little hint at the very end of the episode where the cordyceps, or the mushrooms, or whatever, the fungus, is starting to spread within the camp, I think is a very, 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 very bad omen for what is going to happen later on. So it's New Year's, and so there's a little bit of a party going on. Ellie goes outside, and she and Dina, starting to fall in love, share a little bit of a kiss, but then Joel, because some guy tries to insult them, and then Joel steps in, and Ellie is so done with Joel. And that's really the interesting thing about this first episode to me, is Ellie and Joel, right? Because they're separated for most of the episode, and every time they're in a scene together, I mean, you can just feel the tension in that scene earlier where Joel goes into the garage to get the guitar. And you can just tell he wants to say so much, and Ellie wants to say so much. And instead, Joel just picks up the guitar and walks away. And it's a testament to the actors. They're so good at what they do that you don't have to write dialogue that just tells, I'm angry, I'm upset, or whatever. Pedro Pascal just grabs the guitar and walks out. And you can just tell how awkward and tense the scene is. And here in this scene where Ellie says, I don't want your help, and Joel just kind of looks around, and it's not anger. I mean, it is anger, I'm sure, a little bit, but it's mostly just guilt and shame, and you can just feel it. You can feel it coming off of Joel's body language. It is a testament to some of the best actors in the world that they could get here. And the episode ends with, like I said, the cordyceps and with Abby, and so we get a hint of what is to come. So guys, the first episode of The Last of Us Season 2, I thought was actually a lot quieter than I thought. And I'm not going to use the word slow. It was not slow. I think that the episode was really well paced, but it was a lot quieter than I thought. And I think that that's such an interesting thing, because Joel in this episode is just going through it. And I'm so curious to see how they're going to develop the backstory between what is causing this big rift between Joel and Ellie. Does Ellie know about what Joel did to protect her? What is going to happen with Abby? I think that it's setting up Joel's state of mind. He is just in a bad spot. He is so melancholic and not doing well. So I think it's really interesting to see where we go from here. Guys, what did you think about Season 2, Episode 1 of The Last of Us? I am pretty excited for the rest of the season. I am very on board based on this episode. I think it's going to be a an exciting time, shall we say, for the rest of the season. Let me know in the comments down below.